What if I told you that a practice session, not a final, not a championship match, just a warm-up, stopped traffic in the middle of a European city? Not metaphorically. Literally. Cars pulled over. Drivers stepped out onto the street and started walking toward the sound. Because what was coming out of the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart wasn't noise. It was something you don't expect on a Tuesday afternoon in Germany. And by the time the day was over, the entire tennis world was asking the same question: who exactly is Alex Eala, and how did we not see this coming? Because here's the thing. She had already made headlines before she even hit a ball that week. Her historic win over Leylah Fernandez was already circulating. The moment she pulled her shirt off and gave it to a crowd of Filipino fans? Already viral. But what the cameras caught during that Stuttgart week, that was a completely different level. That was the kind of footage that doesn't just get shared. It gets studied. It gets replayed. It makes people stop and say, wait, is this actually happening right now? Let's start from the beginning. Because the moment Alex Eala stepped off the practice court and into that corridor of flags and chants, something shifted. Not just in the arena. In the air. Thousands of Filipino fans had already been there for hours. Hours before she was even scheduled to hit. Flags waving in perfect rhythm, voices locked together in one sound, chanting her name like it meant something beyond sport. And maybe that's because it did. Because this wasn't just a crowd showing up for a tennis player. This was a community showing up for something they'd been waiting for. A 20-year-old from Manila, standing inside one of Europe's most prestigious venues, and making it feel like home. Stuttgart didn't feel like Stuttgart anymore. That's not a line. That's what people who were there kept saying. And the clips flooding social media backed it up completely. You could see it in the faces. You could hear it in the chants. This was identity. This was pride. This was movement. And at the center of it all, one young woman who didn't flinch, didn't wave awkwardly and walk away. She absorbed it. She fed off it. And then she got to work. But here's where it gets interesting. Because just when you think you've seen the biggest moment of the day, it gets topped. Stay with me. The practice court at the Porsche Arena is supposed to be calm. It's supposed to be controlled. It's the place where players disappear into repetition, away from the chaos of the main stage. Not this time. From the second Eala stepped onto that court, the environment transformed completely. Barriers were packed shoulder to shoulder. Fans pressed forward with phones raised high, capturing every single movement. Security had been preparing for days, and they still weren't ready for the overflow. Thousands of voices moving as one, filling every corner of that space with a presence that made even the walls feel smaller. And then came the moment nobody scripted. No music, no cue, no signal from anyone. Just one voice becoming 10. 10 becoming 100. 100 becoming thousands. Eala, Eala, Eala. A chant that erupted from pure instinct, raw and synchronized all at once, rolling through the acoustics of the arena like a wave that refused to break. So loud, so unified, that it did the one thing nobody expected. It interrupted center court. Players mid-warm-up paused. Umpires looked up. For a few seconds, the biggest stage inside the Porsche Arena wasn't the main court. It was the practice court. And everyone in that building knew it. But here's the part that nobody saw coming. Sitting quietly in the stands, cap pulled low, almost invisible in the chaos, was someone who had no business being that low profile. A presence that doesn't need an introduction. The kind of figure that changes the energy of a room just by being in it. The cameras caught the exact moment Eala noticed. Mid-rally she stopped. Her hitting partner hesitated, confused. But Eala didn't explain, didn't reset, didn't wait. She ran straight to the side of the court. Because some moments are bigger than training. Some moments you don't play through, you step into them. What happened next was filmed from every angle, shared from every corner of the arena. The embrace. The cap slowly lifted. A ripple of recognition moving through the crowd as thousands tried to process what they were seeing. And then, a quiet conversation. Several minutes of Eala nodding, absorbing every word, completely locked in. Whatever was said in those minutes, the internet has been trying to decode it ever since. The identity of that visitor? Still unconfirmed. Still driving millions of views across every platform. But even that wasn't the most powerful moment of the day. Not even close. Because somewhere in that same crowd, pressed against the barrier among thousands who had traveled across cities, across countries, across borders, the cameras found her. A young woman, no older than 25, holding a handmade sign that read, 48 hours. 3 trains. 1 dream. Her eyes were red. Not from exhaustion. From emotion. Hands trembling slightly. Smile completely unshakable. Eala noticed her mid-rally. Stopped again. Walked straight to the edge of the court, spoke briefly to security, and then did something you almost never see at this level. She asked them to let the fan through. The crowd leaned in. Phones lifted higher. Nobody breathed. And then it happened. Eala reached out, took the woman's shaking hands into her own, and asked softly, "You waited 48 hours?" The woman couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears falling openly. And in that moment the noise disappeared again. "Thank you," Eala said. "Thank you for believing in me. Not fans. Not followers. Belief." Then without hesitation, she reached into her bag and pulled out one of her signature shirts, the same jersey that had sold out in seconds at the Miami Open, and placed it directly into the woman's hands. Then pulled her into a full embrace. The crowd erupted. Not polite applause. An eruption. Cameras zoomed in as the woman clutched that shirt to her chest like it was something sacred, her whole body shaking as tears streamed down her face. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Millions of views. Shared across continents. Replayed again and again. Not because it was dramatic, because it was real. And then the story behind it surfaced. Her name was Maria. She had traveled from a small town in Italy. 3 trains. 2 buses. Months of saving just to afford the journey. When she finally arrived in Stuttgart, she didn't go sightseeing. She didn't rest. She camped outside the Porsche Arena for 2 nights just to secure a spot at the barrier. All of it, for one moment. One connection. "I wanted to see her," Maria told a local reporter. "I wanted to tell her that she's the reason I keep going." She paused. "My father passed away last year. Watching Alex play was the only thing that made me happy. I had to tell her." That's what that moment was. Not fandom. Not content. Something real. Something that cuts through everything else and reminds you why any of this matters. Now, if you thought the emotional moments were the whole story, you haven't seen the footage that sent the entire tennis world into a spiral. Because what happened on the practice court next is what coaches and analysts are still talking about. The camera zoomed in and there it was, Alex Eala and Iga Swiatek. Hitting together. Not casually, not briefly, but with full intent and purpose. On the other side of that net stood a 2-time Stuttgart champion. A 4-time French Open winner. A player who understands red clay like it's an extension of herself. And Eala? Zero hesitation. Zero intimidation. Just focus. Just execution. 2 left-handers. 2 players built through high-performance systems at different stages of their careers, trading ground strokes on indoor clay like it was center stage. Swiatek delivering the kind of relentless, high-quality ball that only a multiple Grand Slam champion can produce. Eala at 20 years old, absorbing every spin, every pace adjustment, every inch of pressure, and not just surviving it, thriving in it. Her footwork sharp, her timing clean, her movement controlled, not rushed. Those left-handed angles, the same weapon that built her reputation, cutting through the court with real purpose. Then came one rally that stopped people mid-scroll. 25 shots. No hesitation. No breaks. Backhand to backhand, forehand to forehand, angles tightening, margins shrinking, until Eala stepped in, took the ball early, and ripped a sharp cross-court winner that was completely unreachable. Clinical. And for a split second, everything paused. Then came the reaction from Swiatek, a single nod. Subtle, quiet, respectful. The kind of acknowledgement that doesn't get handed out for free. The clip exploded. Millions of replays from every angle. Because people weren't just watching a rally, they were watching growth. Real, measurable, undeniable growth. Coaches leaned in. Analysts pointed. Quiet conversations started. Because they all saw the same thing. This wasn't the same player from several months ago. This was an upgrade. A clear, visible, documented upgrade happening in real time on one of the toughest surfaces in the sport. And just when you thought the week had already given you everything, came the moment that defined it all. After her victory, when most players would have disappeared straight into the locker room, Eala walked back out. Slowly, onto the court again, not to compete, but to connect. She reached center court, stopped, looked up, and saw it. A sea of Philippine flags. Everywhere. Still waving. Still waiting. The crowd had never stopped. And then, silence. It spread through the arena like a switch had been flipped. Thousands of voices gone quiet all at once. Every eye locked on her. She raised her arms, took a breath, grabbed a microphone, and took complete control of the moment. "Laban," she shouted. The response was instant, an explosion of sound bouncing off every wall. "Laban!" Louder. "Laban! Laban!" Now it wasn't a chant anymore. It was a heartbeat. Player and crowd no longer separate. One voice, one pulse filling the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart, Germany. "L.A.!" she shouted. "Oh!" The crowd fired back. "Pilipinas! Pilipinas!" And just like that, the moment was complete. Some fans shouting, some crying, most doing both at the same time. For a few unscripted minutes, this wasn't Germany anymore. It was Manila. It was home. Clips of that moment spread instantly. Across platforms, across countries, across time zones. Millions watched it. News outlets picked it up. Because what they were seeing wasn't just a player thanking her fans. They were watching what people had started calling the Eala effect. Fully realized, fully unleashed on European soil for the very first time. When she was asked about it afterward, her answer cut through all the noise. These fans traveled thousands of miles. They spent money they saved for months. They took time off work. They rearranged their lives. She paused. The least I could do was give them a moment they would never forget. And that's exactly what she did. Because some performances get measured in points and rankings. This one got measured in people. In tears. In flags. In a young woman from Italy clutching a shirt to her chest like it meant everything. Because it did. In a city that was transformed, even briefly, into something that felt unmistakably like home. The cameras inside the Porsche Arena didn't just capture highlights. They captured a shift. A moment in time where one player stopped being a rising star and started being something bigger. A movement. And with Jasmine Paolini, world number 8, waiting in the next round, nothing about this feels predictable anymore. Because this story stopped following a script a long time ago.